Have you ever picked up the Bible and just wondered, what is this really all about? I mean, it's so much more than just a dusty old book. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain and look at the single epic story that weaves all 66 of its books together.
But right away, you have to ask a huge question. We're talking about a book written by about 40 different people over 1,600 years. Seriously, how on earth could it possibly tell one single, unified story? That's the puzzle we're going to dive into.
To really get how this is even possible, we first need to appreciate just how massive this undertaking was. The way this book came together, well, it's pretty mind-blowing.
First, just think about the authors. We're not talking about a small team working in one office. We've got around 40 different writers from literally every walk of life. You've got fishermen, prophets, doctors, even kings. People with completely different lives and points of view.
And then there's the timeline. These books were written over a 1,600-year span. To put that into perspective, that's like someone starting a story back in the days of the Roman Empire and someone else finishing it up on a smartphone today. It's a staggering amount of time.
And, just to make it even more complex, they weren't all writing in the same language. The texts were written across different continents in Hebrew, Aramaic, and Greek. You know, with all that, you'd expect a total mess of conflicting ideas. But that is not what we find at all.
So here's the big idea. This is the key that unlocks the whole thing. The Bible presents itself as one single story with one ultimate author behind it all, and that's God. The human writers were the pen, but the divine architect was guiding the entire project.
And this idea comes straight from the book itself. In 2 Timothy, it says that all Scripture is breathed out by God. That concept, divine inspiration, is the secret to its impossible unity. It means this isn't just a collection of human ideas about God, it's God revealing himself to us.
Okay, so if it's one story, what's the plot? Well, this grand narrative basically unfolds like a 4-act play. It's the story of redemption.
This amazing story has 4 parts. Act 1 is creation, a perfect world where humanity is in perfect relationship with its creator. Then, Act 2, the fall. This is the tragic turn where sin enters the world and that relationship is shattered. And just when it seems like all hope is lost, the longest act begins, redemption. This is God's incredible, sweeping plan to rescue his people. And it all leads to the final act, restoration, the ultimate promise of a new, perfect creation.
And you know, like any truly great story, this one has a main character, a hero. And from the very first pages to the final words, the entire story is about one person, Jesus Christ.
You can see this unfold across the whole Bible. The Old Testament sets the stage. You have the dawn of creation, the promises to the early fathers like Abraham, the dramatic rescue from Egypt, the rise and fall of a kingdom. It builds through exile and suffering, and it ends with this long 400-year silence. There's this tension, a desperate need for a hero. And then, bam! The New Testament explodes onto the scene with the Gospels, putting the spotlight right on Jesus. From there, the story follows the birth of the church, its mission to the world, and it looks forward to the future.
This is the perfect way to understand the 2 Testaments. Think of it like this. The Old Testament is the great promise. It spends thousands of years setting the stage, building the tension, pointing forward and saying, a rescuer is coming. Then, the New Testament is the fulfillment. It throws the doors wide open and announces, he's here, this is him.
So, it doesn't matter where you open the book, you'll find that every story, every law, every prophecy is either pointing forward to Jesus or it's flowing back from him. He is the absolute center, the hinge on which the entire story of history turns. Now, a story this big, this grand, it naturally makes you wonder, is it just a great story, or can we actually trust this blueprint? Let's take a quick look at why so many people believe it's reliable.
So why trust it? Well, there are a lot of reasons. For one, the number of ancient manuscript copies we have is just staggering, way more than any other text from that era. Then there's archaeology, which is constantly digging up evidence of the people and places the Bible talks about. The New Testament itself claims to be based on eyewitness testimony, and as we've already talked about, the internal consistency of its message across 66 books is just incredible. And maybe the most powerful evidence for a lot of people is the way this story has radically changed countless lives throughout history.
But you know, beyond all of those external reasons, the ultimate reason for trust, according to the Bible itself, is its own claim. The core belief is that we can trust it because God says it is his word. It claims for itself a divine authority.
All right, so we've seen the blueprint, we've looked at the story, and we've touched on why we can trust it. But this isn't just about ancient history class.
This story claims to have a direct impact on our lives right here, right now. So, let's make it personal. Let's start with your mind. Do you really see this story as God's absolute truth, the way the world actually is? Or is it just another piece of interesting information you file away with other world mythologies?
Next, let's move to the heart, your affections. Do you actually love this story and its hero, Jesus? Or do you just kind of use it, maybe to make yourself feel better or to win an argument or to check a religious box?
And finally, we come to the will. This is where the rubber meets the road. If this story's really true, it has huge implications for how we live. So the question is, am I actually submitting my life to what it says? Am I lining up my choices with this story?
Because here's the beautiful final point. This incredible story, it was never meant for us to just sit on the sidelines and watch. It's not just God's story that we can observe from a safe distance. No, it's an open invitation for you to find your place in that story of creation, fall, redemption, and restoration. So you've seen the divine blueprint, this single, unified story of redemption with Jesus Christ at the very center. The only question left is, what are you going to build with it?